We'll figure it out as we go. That's the best thing about it, right? What's up, guys? Jason Guyman here with King of Pressure Wash. Actually, tonight is Christmas lights. And tonight I've got a special guest on. Tonight, everybody has been asking because I had said something, and everybody started asking Daniel, how's he getting these commercial leads? So, whether you're talking about getting commercial leads for pressure washing or Christmas lights, it's basically the same. You know, I talked to Lindy, and she's like, "Don't you be giving my secrets out." And I was like, "It's all right if I do give your secrets out, because you know what the number one thing is to take and get in commercial work is taking action. And it's not taking action a little bit, but a whole lot of taking action. You know, there's a story that John Maxwell always says that, you know, there was a guy, you can have this big tree outside, and you can go outside and take your axe out there, and you can go out there one time and just start hammering for 500, 600 times on that tree, and that tree will never fall over. But if you go out there every day and chop on that tree for 25 chops, you will eventually get that tree down. And the point of this is a lot of times I'll tell you guys that you need to do this or this or this, and you'll go out there and you'll do it for a week, and you'll be like, well, I did it for a week and it didn't work, Jason. Well, you know, whether we're talking about LinkedIn or we're talking about Christmas lights for Daniel, this is how he's able to do it. So before we get going here, I want to talk about my book of the week. I'm actually using this book of the week for people that are in my mentorship. We're actually going through chapter by chapter, and that is the book of Buy Back Your Time. This is a great book. I highly recommend this book. There's actually a little workbook with it that you can buy too, so you can start taking action in your book of Buying Back Your Time. So with that, let's get this show started. So first off, Daniel, tell me a little bit about yourself, about how you got started, and are you just like, you know, this great business owner that just, you know, been doing it for 10 years, or just tell me a little bit about who you are, where you're from, so everybody kind of knows your backstory.
Yeah. So my background is I've never owned a business before. Actually, that's a lie. I have. I've owned a soccer training business before, but I've never owned a service business before. So my background, I was an athlete. I moved over here to America in 2010. Uh, I signed my first professional soccer contract when I was 17 years old. I actually graduated high school a year early and moved out of my home to move up to a place called Inverness in the Highlands of Scotland, and enrolled in they called it an apprenticeship, a professional apprenticeship with a football club, a professional football club up there in the Highlands. I spent a year there, and then I moved to another club, and I determined I was never quite good enough to play at the highest level as a professional player. I actually was offered a contract to play in the league below the Premier League, so the second division, which over here is like similar to the minor league. But you know, I always had a little bit of brains, and I watched my father's career pan out. My father, he was a Hall of Fame professional footballer, very high level, and you know he had a great career. But his career was ended short due to a really bad injury he sustained. And he never had any qualifications or degrees once he finished his career. So it was tough for him to find his feet again after his playing career. And now he's in coaching and he's doing great. But I just saw that, you know, I didn't want to, you know, be left in a place where, you know, I get a bad injury, and I didn't really make that much when I was playing because I was playing at a lower level than my dad ever did. And then I was stuck because I've seen that happen to people, and it's really tough, you know. So I decided to come over here to America. I signed on a full scholarship as a D1 athlete, an NCAA D1 athlete. I played soccer at UMBC in Baltimore my first 2 years, and then I transferred to UC Santa Barbara in California, where I played college soccer there. So that's kind of my background, and I'm from Scotland, born and raised.
So you really don't have a Kentucky accent then, do you?
No, no.
So so what made you decide to do Christmas lights? I mean, Obviously, how many teams do you coach a year for soccer? Because that's your full time job, correct?
Yeah, so my father and I, we run our own non-profit soccer club. It's a travel club. We've been doing that now 2 years. I've been coaching now for 10 years since I graduated college. And it's been really good. I've learned a lot. But it's just, I was ready for something different. Um, as much as I enjoy coaching, it's never going to build wealth. And I want to start, building so that my kids, I've got 2 kids now, can have great futures, and I can get them in private schools if they want, and I can take care of them. So I determined that I was never going to be able to achieve that just in soccer alone, and that's why I started to scale out and look at other businesses. I've always had a business savvy mindset, uh, and I discovered your YouTube stuff. I was actually down, I think I've told this story. I was down in Miami watching Inter Miami, the soccer team, Lionel Messi play, and I couldn't sleep. So I ended up on YouTube one night and I found your stuff, and it's it really helped me in terms of like all the how to operate a business, how to install Christmas lights, and then you know those first few videos I watched really helped me dive all in. So it's
So
been great.
once you started, last year was 2023. How much did you end up doing in 2023?
Just shy of $180,000, 178, I believe.
100, and that was your first year doing Christmas lights.
Yeah,
So
and it was.
let's walk us through that first year before we start moving into this year. So what did you do to be able to get to $180,000 your very first year?
Yeah, I'm one of these guys that, like, from my athletic background, and in hindsight, I look back on it and I'm like, how did I achieve that? Because I tripled my goal. My goal was 50,000, well, more than triple. My goal was $50,000. I'd have been happy with that. And I remember you telling me early, I think we were in like early October, and you were like, yeah, you're going to do like 160, or if not more. And I was like, you're crazy. But I ended up doing it. So anyway, I have that attitude, like if I'm going to go and do something, and I think we'll talk more about this in this call, but I from my athletic background, I believe that time's valuable, and the clock's ticking on all of us, and we should really take time to kind of pick what we want to do in life, whether that's business, hobbies, how we're going to spend time with our family, because time's valuable and you never get it back. So if I'm choosing to do something and I'm going to dedicate time to that, whether that's vacuuming my floor or doing the dishwasher, anything, I'm going to give it every single thing I have, 100% all in, because you never get that time back. And so when I decided I was going to do this business, I was literally all in, and I threw the kitchen sink at it, and I was up till 2 o'clock building this business, 2 a.m. most nights, from when I started late August, I believe, all the way through to December, January at Takedown. I was up till 2 a.m. most nights, learning, asking questions, doing everything I could to put myself ahead.
So the that is something that as you did, right? And there was times he called me at midnight, which was 2 o'clock at his time because I was in Dallas at that time. It is something that he went all in and did it. And so the biggest thing with this is it's not even like because someone asked here, what kind of overhead did you have, right? You had your lights, but even your marketing, you really didn't spend a lot of money in it's not like you did Facebook ads or any of that. Did you even do yard signs?
Yeah, I did. So that's actually a good question. That's the reason the Christmas light business was so appealing, because I didn't actually have much front up costs at all in terms of, I was able to take deposits and then start to purchase material, right? Like the only thing I really had to purchase out the gates was some advertising material, some branding material. So I got door hangers and I got some road signs. And then that was enough to get me a few sales. And then once I got the deposits from those sales, I was able to start, gaining traction.
So what was your main marketing for 2023?
So early on, it was hammering my network, right? So the beauty of being a soccer coach is I've been able to build up my interpersonal skills. I believe I'm a good communicator, and I've built up some really good friendships over the years. And your network's everything in life, whatever walk of life you're in, and being able to utilize that network's really helped me. And and that all comes back to being a good person, having good morals, good ethics, and having good character. And I think that that's so important, because you might not get that return tomorrow, but maybe years down the line through a relationship you have, something will work, and some you might get something in return for that relationship.
And, talking about network, if you didn't know, soccer is expensive. And so that helps with a good network of having those people that you were able to get as clients, some of those, or at least they know people that know people, right? And that's a thing that, that you're able to do. So the next thing too, before we get into getting to more commercial or where you are right now, this is a great question that Nathan brings up here, because you did $180,000, and a lot of people would think you would have two crews, being that you're your first year or 4 or 5 guys. Let's talk about this. Was probably one of the hardest things that Daniel had to overcome. It wasn't getting more jobs; it was getting work. Like, well, I'll let you tell your story, and then I'll come back with one of my stories from you.
Yeah, so I had many a sleepless night due to staffing issues. Obviously, being in year one, I'm actually not too fond of getting on the roof. I can if I want to. Like if I really have to, I'll get up there and do the job. But I'm not fond of it, and I'd rather someone else does that. And I believe strongly, again, boiling back to sports and going back to sports and things like that. Everyone kind of should have a role in anything that's to succeed or do well. So in terms of business, that is, I've got to piece. I'm the boss, so I've got to piece together all the components to make a good team, right? So there's a lot of things that correlate between my sports background and business, and I didn't notice all this until I started. So, you know, I had difficulties with staff, people lying on their resumes, people showing up saying they had this experience, that experience, and then I get them to the job and they're telling me that, oh yeah, I hung some Christmas lights in my grand's house, or I did some for a friend, and it's not actual professional installation. So that really wasted a lot of my time. And then I had people who they just didn't want to work hard. They didn't have the drive. They didn't see, you know, they didn't see what I saw in terms of, like I was very positive, and Christmas lights make me happy. Genuinely, I have a passion for them, and not everyone has that same passion, and I find that difficult, because I think if you're going to have someone in your team, they have to buy in, right? They have to be fully in, and I just felt like I didn't really get much of that until the end of the season. I found a guy, really blessed. His name's Juan, and he's phenomenal. He's got 30 years experience as a roofer, and he'd never done Christmas lights before, but I was able to train him up in a day. And I mean, it was just him and I, and we were knocking out like four or five installs a day, which to us on some days was a lot, because it was year one, so all the materials we were having to do, cut everything year one, put all the bulbs on, nothing was pre-bulbed, so it was good.
So the thing that your crew was pretty much a crew of one, correct? You, yourself, and one other person,
Yeah, yeah.
and sometimes you had two other people, but most of the time it was you and one other person, correct?
Yeah, it was just two of us the whole, yeah, yeah.
So there was very little overhead, because obviously you were the ground guy and the roof guy was there. How many roofs did you get on in 2023?
Um, Around four, three, four, five, maybe. Not many.
Out of how many jobs?
Oh, I don't even know. I think we did like 80, around 80,
So your
70.
average ticket was over $2,000 a piece. So
Yeah.
that's going to get us into another thing here. Coach here put the athlete mindset is a different wiring. I like this guy doing extra, going above and beyond, and obsessed, full grind mode. And that is definitely what happened. And so the one night was on a Saturday night, and Daniel's calling me, and he's like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, because I have no workers. He quit. He's stealing everything off of my plate off of me. And so I'm like, well, it sounds like you better go put something out in Facebook or Craigslist to see if you can find somebody. And he was stressing out so bad. And then Sunday night, he's like, man, that worked. I got like 2 or 3 people ready to go to work. I'm like, that's because you have not because you ask not. So go out there and ask for it and get it. So that's that. And then Rich put soccer is expensive. Spoken by ECNL league parent. Don't forget the private and technical training. And so, that is how he was able to get to where he was last year. So, where are you at sitting right now going into May 22nd?
Yeah, so I've already more than doubled what I made in 20 my year one, 2023.
So you said your close rate or your return rate from everybody last year, you're about what, 85% or 87%, I think you said.
Yeah, I'm now closer to 90%. I followed a few up, so
So you followed up, and when you follow up, people will sign up, right? And so it's back to communication. It's not waiting till July. It's not waiting till September, October. It's in June or in May to follow up. And so that's a great thing to do. So you're at 90% return rate. So
yeah.
that means you are about 107, 160, 150, $60,000 in return. And so where are you sitting at right now? Are you at almost 400,000?
Yeah, around that ballpark.
So around 400,000. Now, you are in a good area. A lot of times I hear people saying this that you can't get it in my area. But what I will tell you is you have I know you have two big competitors that I know personally. One's a good friend of mine, Elf Pros, Paul Gardner, and the other one's a pretty good friend of mine too. I know him very well with Red Door.
Yeah, I
Now,
got a lot of respect for those guys. They're doing a good job and a lot of respect.
yes, Jonathan Maynard is the other guy that is Red Door. So he's in that area. Now, what I will say is there are people charging the 10 to 12, $14 a foot in that area. But don't be like, well, that's because that's area. How many guys do you have in your area that are charging the $4 and $5 and $6 a foot in your area?
Yeah, we have a lot. Yeah.
And when you say a lot, I mean there's a lot of them, isn't there?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot.
Because I've heard Paul tell me about it a lot of the time of the $4, $5, $6 a foot person that they're bidding against, and it's night and day when you're bidding against a $4 and $5, $6 foot. So I don't want to hear, well, it's in that area, because yes, he does have competitors that are getting it too, but he also has a lot of competitors that are not smart enough. And some of you may not be on this call. And if you are, I'm sorry to say it, but you're not smart enough to bid the 10 to 12, $14 a foot to get that, to be able to get that. And so you have to ask and you have to go after there. So, with that, what did you do to be able to double? Because a lot of people, and to be honest, this is the time to go after commercial work. If you're going after commercial work in October and November, it's going to be really hard because it's not in their budget at that point, right? They haven't budgeted for it and it's not in their budget for it. So that's why you got to go after commercial work right now. It's just like pressure washing. You've got to go after commercial work now to be able to get it in June, July, and August when it slows down. Well, we got to get the commercial work for Christmas lights now before we get into Christmas season in October. So I always tell whether you do LinkedIn or you do door knocking, basically, that it's the consistency that wins, right? It's not about I'm gonna just do 10 and that's it. That's not gonna work very well for us. So with that, what have you been doing? So first off, I wanted to say on this too is Daniel shows up every Monday night on Monday Night Marketing at christmaslights.io. If you're in the membership, he's in the membership and he shows up every Monday night. By you showing up in every Monday night, what does that help you? How does that help you? Does that help you at all? Do you learn anything? Tell us a little bit about that before we get into how you're doing it elsewhere.
No, absolutely helps. Yeah. I mean, I know 100% that I'm, I might have done pretty well for year one, but in the grand scheme of things, I've still got to learn a ton. I'm like a sponge, and I feel like I'm learning a lot in that group. Every week you'll pick up something, a little bit of gold, and it can only help you. And I pick things up every week. I've got a notepad, and I'm on to about page 30 upstairs, of things I'm writing down that I've learned in that group.
And there's a lot of people that are in this area of growth too, in that 400,000 or 500,000. We got Dan and Lindy in there. They're going to probably hit 1 million this year. We got other people in there that's going to hit $500,000. And so when you're around awesome people, you will be awesome too, and taking action from it. And we got Tristan in there. He's another awesome guy that's young. So it's really neat to see people growing.
Yeah,
Here's a
and
Go ahead.
sorry to interject. So something I've learned from the group, and something that, when I don't think that, if you're going to go into this business solely for the reason to make money, then I don't think you'll last, because that first season was super stressful. I mean, there was times where, I was pissed. Like, things were frustrating, right? And it might have been, dealing with the staffing issues or getting materials in, whatever it was. And there's going to be some hard times. And you have to have an actual passion for it. And, that's something that I sensed in the group, like, what is success, right? I think when you're going into a business, you have to determine what is success to you. And to me, yeah, the money's one thing, and I think you can make money in anything you want to do, but it's actually, finding joy in what you do and enjoying it. And I feel like in that group, I've truly, you know, I've become humble because I hear people's stories and I'm like, wow, I've still got a long way to go, but at least I'm enjoying the process. Like, I wake up every day excited to pick up the phone and make calls to commercial properties. And a lot of that comes from being in that group and hearing other people's stories. And it inspires me to be better and do better.
And here's another young entrepreneur that's killing it too. If you're not following his channel, you'll get some good laughs, and you will get some great knowledge too, and nuggets. I mean, the video he did the other day was just phenomenal of him in his suit being the CEO person. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but been hunting commercial work, calls going out, and current clients being informed on all quotes. And so that's kind of the reason why this was kind of a last minute of bringing Daniel on. And the reason why we're bringing Daniel on is he's been getting an inbox full of emails or messages, and he's like, I don't want to tell you how to do it. I'll just go on and tell everybody, so that way I don't have to sit there. So what have you been doing to be able to get to the $400,000 mark for Christmas lights?
Yeah. So, number one, I'll pick up the phone and I call people, and I'm relentless. So, what I do is every night before I go to bed, I have a list of things I go through and I do. And one of them is to pinpoint my calls for the next day. Or if I didn't get through my whole list, then I'll start with those. And what I do is I create a note folder on my phone, and for the next day, so whether I'm, and it goes back to my point on time, right? You have to use every moment of the day wisely. And, I find that I travel a lot to commute to soccer training and stuff. So, in that hour commute there and an hour commute back, it's 2 hours where I pick up the phone and I call, and I'll call businesses. And and it can become very frustrating because today I called just shy of 20, I think it was 19 businesses. I didn't get a yes today. And it was very, very frustrating. But I may have left a voicemail that maybe 2 months from now someone's going to call back. Um, and I think a big thing with these calls is you have to be excited. Again, you have to be passionate. There has to be more than just, I'm putting lights up for you. There has to be excitement. And I think that the reason I've been so successful is the customers can sense how excited I am to talk about Christmas lights, why it's an uplifting experience to have lights, why it can benefit your business. And I always go in, and it's very easy in this day and age because we've got, so much information at our fingertips. So before I call a car dealership, I'll go in and find the data on how this is going to benefit a car dealership. So the first thing I'm going to say to that person picking up the phone is, when I eventually get to the person, and by the way, this is an important point. Before you even start pitching, make sure you're getting to the person that's going to be making the decision. Otherwise, you're just wasting words. Um, because you could end up doing your whole pitch to the guy at the front desk picking up the phone, but then he goes, "Oh yeah, oh this is a decision from a manager," and you've just wasted a whole conversation. Again, time to get to the man that's going to, or woman that's going to make the decision. So something I'm big on is data, statistics, and then you know putting your almost you want. the person on the other end of the phone to like you, because essentially you've got to build trust, right? If they're going to be purchasing, spending 10, 11, $12,000 on Christmas lights for their car dealership, they want to know that they can trust you and you're a good guy. So I think being able to talk to people, communicate, and then get them to like you, build trust, and then you go in with the pitch. I think a lot of people put it the other way around, and then they never end up getting anywhere because all they're trying to do is sell lights instead of the experience.
So one of the things that one of the things that a lot of people ask me all the time is what is your script? And so let's walk through a script that you have for your business of doing this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I know you ain't got a script. And that's why I want to tell it. That's why I want to walk through people, because this is something that I've seen the question about you about 2 to 3 people is like, well, what's the script? And so people think that they're going to call and have a script of, you know, this is something that you're going to be able to do, and it's not always going to be the case that you're going to be able to do these things this way. So let's walk through of what these scripts might sound like.
I don't have a script. Now, the reason I don't have a script is I have things I want to hit. Like, for instance, we're an all inclusive service. We take care of the design, supply of all materials, which are commercial grade, installation, maintenance, takedown, storage. That's all riffraff, though. Like, that's things that, you know, yeah, you're checking the boxes, but that's not going to sell the job. What's going to sell the job is, learning about the general manager. Why do you want Christmas lights? This is how it's going to help your business. You know, um, wouldn't it be great that having your customers walk in and we've got candy cane on the roof line? Isn't that going to uplift the place? I've looked at the data. This is going to increase your sales by this much. Instead of just, yeah, this is what we do. This is how we do it. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear about the experience.
It's back to selling the magic and not selling the bulb, right? A lot of times, I know I preach this a lot of not selling the bulb, because the bulb is not what's going to make you the money at the end of it. It's about selling the magic. So walk me through, and most of this you are not going in person either, right? You're doing all of this on phone calls, correct?
Yeah, I do some in person. Like if there's one on route that I want to hit, then I will go in. And that I've actually found that to be almost better. It's just it's time, right? I don't have the time to be going around all these different places. I've got 2 kids under 2. Ideally, I'd love to walk in everywhere and sell. I think my conversion rate would be insane, but it's just not possible right now. I think once time starts to free up, my boys are a little older, I'll be going into places. I've got one story where I walked into a place. This was an elderly home, and before I even got to the front desk, I just started talking to the residents. Like there was an old guy sitting outside. There's an old woman as well, and I'm just like, "Do you guys have Christmas lights around Christmas time?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, Christmas lights go on the roof line, around the tree. Oh, no, sir, we don't. Why? And I'm like, wouldn't it be nice to be sitting out here, drinking your coffee, looking at Christmas lights? Wouldn't that feel good? And they're like, oh, it would, sir. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm a Christmas light installer. What's the name of your, manager, executive director? Oh, yeah, this is the name. So I went to the front desk. I says, hey, could I speak to this person? Yeah, no problem. What is it regarding? Christmas lights. And then I start to get into, we're a all-inclusive service. We're premium service. We take care of everything. You don't have to worry about a thing. Your maintenance guys can focus on the interior while we get everything done in a day. Um, we'll be back in January to take down the lights and store them for y'all. And then, by the way, next year you get a 10% discount. How's that sound? Oh, that sounds great, sir. Okay, here's I'm going to get out the executive director. And then the woman actually came out, and it turned out we were working for a while. And this is another thing I do is when I go into a commercial job, I always provide a tiered option. So, because you don't want to miss out on something, right? So you want to give them options because a lot of the time, you know, they have to go onto a call or with a committee to determine how much they're going to allow of their budget to this project, right? So you want to provide a tiered package option, and I provide 3: a basic, intermediate, and then excellence package. And then what I'll do is, I'll stack them up, especially the excellence package, and you'll just see what they come back with. They might the one I ended up getting. I didn't end up getting that elderly home, but the that was the daughter, and then she ended up saying, "Hey, my mum is the executive director at a sister property which was bigger in Fairfax, and I ended up getting a massive job out of that." And I sent her a tiered package option, and she opted for it. Wasn't the middle one. It wasn't intermediate. It wasn't excellence, but it was in between. She asked if she could add some things from the intermediate, and we made it work. But what you don't want to do is just send one quote, and then they decide they might want something else, and you've not put it in there, and then you lose money.
Right. So that that's one of those things that we always teach packages, because otherwise if you don't offer it they're not going to be able to get it. And so as a 3-tier package, give them options is 100% right, and that's definitely something that you need to be doing to do this. So as you go in here and you're talking about the magic and stuff, what is so if you're leaving a voicemail to somebody to maybe get someone to call, are you trying to just sell hard there, or are you what is the voicemail that you're leaving to someone like this?
Yeah, so you definitely want to let them know that you're good at what you do, and why it would work for their business. But at the same time, you're trying to leave key information. You don't want the yourself, when you get a voicemail and it's dragging on a bit, you want to be very concise and to the point. You're not going to listen to the whole thing. So, and I think I've found as well as you have to be different to everyone else. Like, you have to find something that makes you different, because a lot of these people in these jobs, like at the front desk, they're picking up the phone to these people almost every day that are calling, trying to sell them something. And you have to make sure you've got the X factor and you stand out to someone else, right? Um, and again, that comes back to understanding who you're talking to, putting yourself in their shoes. It's so important. Like, ask them how their day's going. I bet you half of them don't even ask that. Like, something as simple as that. How's your day going? You liking this weather? Small talk. You have to master the small talk.
And if you can find something that they like, then you can really get them talking about that. And if you've read this book here, it talks all about that, of the ultimate sales machine, right? If he talks about how he closed one of the biggest clients of Dell, because he talked about he was on the phone for like 2 hours and his boss was getting pissed off, but it was the biggest client that he ever gotten, because he found out what the dude liked, and he just talked about that and built that relationship. And it's back to relationship. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I called a restaurant chain last week, and before we even got, I knew this person wasn't the one going to make the decision, but before we even started to get talking about who I was and that, I says, by the way, I was in here last week, and your steak is the best steak I've ever had. I had dessert. It was unbelievable. I'll be back. My family really enjoyed their time. And then just got talking about that. And then, she was talking back and stuff. And I was like, oh, it's just so good. I've not had a steak like that in years, and all this stuff. And then she ended up really liking me. And I'm probably going to get, it's not finished, not finalized yet, but I'm probably going to get a deal, because I bet you when she went and spoke to the decision maker, oh, by the way, that's a really nice guy.
Right.
So I think leaving good impressions, it's
Well,
important.
it's back to even when I talk about when you answer your phone, right? You got to smile. And it's not just smiling, it's about being happy and making an impression on people. And you can hear it in your voice. If you are not happy, they're going to find out real fast, and you're not going to sell much at all. At all. And so, Michael put, what kind of options do you offer in the 3-tier packages?
Yeah, so the elderly home, it was the basic package was roof line of the portico, which is when they drive, there's a shelter thing, the portico over the driveway, and then it was some wreaths, and then the package up from that was portico roof line, wreaths, garland round the entryway, and then we actually did trees on the patio, and then the excellence package was ground stake, ground lighting around the patio, and some other things like that. So you're just kind of adding on different options as you go. But you want to make sure that your basic package still has enough to make it worthwhile.
Yes, and this goes for, I know I got some pressure washing guys, pressure washing and Christmas lights. You're always going to give packages, no matter what service business you're in or what. And this even works, the way he's getting jobs for commercial works for the same thing for pressure washing. It doesn't matter what it is. I know Sam asked a question up here of what is this all you, or what do you do other than lights? And do you do anything else other than lights? And he's a soccer coach. That's what he does.
Yeah, that's my full-time job. So this is just kind of, something I do on the side right now. But it kind of works out well because soccer coaching's, year round almost. But then we have a little break from like start of December, January. It was a bit difficult last year because I didn't realize how much effort and energy I was going to have to pour into this, and it kind of blew up overnight. So my dad thankfully was understanding that I was building a business. So there was times where I wasn't making it to training. We ended up working till 8, 9 o'clock at night in the dark, and I had to call my assistant coach and be like, "Hey, look, I'm not going to make it to practice today." And thankfully, I have a great assistant coach. They were very understanding. All the families, were very understanding because they knew I was, set an example to the kids that, look, coach is going out in there and building something, and showing you guys, he's a good role model. He's showing you how something can get done. And it was a good story to tell them because they kind of saw me and the stress I was going through and how I was missing training. And they were always interested in how I was doing and how I did. And I'll probably send them this video so they can watch to see the outcome of all the hard work.
Here's a question here. Is there data out there for Christmas lights in commercial? I would like to think Chick-fil-A may have that, as many as use them.
Yeah, there is.
I know that Pink Pro Wash said that, or Pink Holiday Lighting, they do all the, they do all of the, can't think of the name of it, the cannabis places, and like they seen a 30% increase by having it lit up versus not lit up, and so they've been doing a ton of those places. So we got all kinds of people in here. Let's see. What other decor do you do other than lights? You mentioned wreaths and garland. Anything else?
No, that's mainly it for decor. I mean, that was the thing, year one. I didn't want to get, I could have started throwing in all these different things. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong when starting a business is they get very excited and they start doing things that maybe in year 10 you can pull off. But when you're just starting a business, you want to keep things as simple as possible. And so I kind of, when I was on the phone with people and I was gauging, what they wanted to go for, I would kind of steer the conversation towards, what I think would look best in their home, but also what do I have in storage because I'm a year one guy and I've not got the luxury of having surplus material. So I was making it through each day, but it was tough. So I was kind of trying to gauge what I had whilst making it satisfying the customer. So I would towards the end of the year because trees were taking so long to do. Like Jason, I'm gonna be honest, man, I hate trees.
Me too.
Um, yeah, I got fed up with them, and you know what is even worse is they look beautiful when you get them done, but it takes you like way too long. They use a ton of material. You don't make much money off them because people think they're super expensive as it is, even though they are expensive to do. And then when it came to takedown, we were spending like an hour, 2 hours at war with trees trying to get all the stuff. Branches are sticking in your eye, and I ended up paying one of my soccer player, my U17 kids. He wanted extra money. I was like, "Do you want to go and take down those strands?" We left him at that job because we were done with that tree. He's like, "No problem." It took him like 3 hours. He came to practice the next day with scratches all over his face from the tree. So
Well, and I know Sam has been killing it with trees, and Sam's like that's where Sam has done. If you didn't know, Sam has beat you in year one. He did 250-ish thousand. In year two, he's about 600-700 thousand in year two. So you got some big shoes to try to catch up. But now he has a whole slew of I don't know how to say it politically correct, but of not Americans, a lot of them, and well, they might be, but he uses a lot of Hispanics and different people to use, and he has gotten a lot of big commercial jobs. Like he's got the Indianapolis Zoo, and he's just killing it on commercial and trees, and that's where he's really gotten it, is in the trees. So
But Jason, can I just say thank you to Sam, because I'm a really competitive person, and when I had no idea what I was going to do, but when I was early on, I wasn't thinking anywhere close to what Sam did. But when you told me I was closing in on him and I'd become your number two year one guy in terms of revenue, and I was closing in on Sam, I was really pushing, and it was good to have that as a benchmark and something to strive for. Fell short, but it was good, and it's amazing what he's been able to achieve. I'd love to get on a call with him. I've never met him, but it'd be great to kind of you know work with him and learn some things.
I think the two of yours energy would be amazing. Like
Yeah,
both of you are like fire, man, and it's just like that's what gets this thing going. That's what gets you to be able to grow. You know, eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff, and then just be so excited about it. And that's what's going to help you grow, and that's going to get you to where you're going to be at.
what
And
what did he do year two?
I know it was over.
You don't have to say it. You don't
I
have to
never
say it on
got
here.
the final, but I know it's about $600,000-700,000 is about where it's at. So, in that range. Nathan, this is a good question too. Nathan's a young entrepreneur too, which is really cool to see. He asked, "What commercial buildings do you target?" And this is something cool because the other day when he got on Monday Night Live, he's like, "I called 15 churches, and number 16 was said yes." So what do you what do you target, and what's been the best for your targeting wise?
That's a great question. Yeah. So what I try to do is I try to keep, the same business for that day. The reason I do that is you kind of get in the groove, and although I'm not doing a pitch, you kind of try to gear the conversation towards that industry. So, on Monday it was churches, so I made sure that it was all churches so that I'd kind of rehearsed what I was not almost in a way, the same key points I wanted to hit, right? Discussing, whatever it was for that industry. So for churches, and then the next day I did car dealerships, restaurants, and I kind of try to keep them in the same day. Other ones I like to call, small boutiques. They like to do lights. Smaller shopping centres. I got a really good strip mall, a little shopping centre in Knoxville. Great little shopping centre. They loved their lights. We did some wreaths on the windows as well, and it looked really nice. But yeah, I've found that it becomes more difficult the bigger the business is. For example, Longhorn Steakhouse has been a tough one for me to crack. They are all about the lights. They want to do it, but there's a hierarchy there. And it's all about board meetings, and it's taken months, and it's been a bit frustrating, but there's lots of different, I find that the smaller businesses are much easier to get on board.
Good.
Another big one's golf courses. I'm working with a big golf course right now. They've actually held a PGA championship in the past. Um, and I'm working with them right now. It's going to be an exciting one.
This is a great question too, Nathan asks. Are you getting deposits or no deposits on commercial?
Yep, deposits are the exact same for commercial as they are for residential, because you're going to need a ton of material. So 50%.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome.
But I
Awesome.
have found that deposits for commercial take a little longer. We've been getting them. They actually want to. A lot of the actually all my commercial jobs in year one, they paid me as a was it a W was it
W-9.
W-9? Yeah, W-9.
Yep. So
Yeah,
you have to do a W-9 so they can write you off and that, or write it off for you and everything
and
tax
you're
wise.
independent contractor. Yeah.
Especially being that you're probably charging, if you're charging a couple thousand or 10, 20,000, they definitely want a W-9 you. So that's a piece of paper that isn't that hard to get. It's just your business information on it in there. Sam said, reach out anytime. I can give you his number if you don't mind me giving it to you. That way you can reach out to him and talk to him. Daniel is a stud. Mr. Tristan, Tristan's on Monday Night Live too, or Monday Night Marketing all the time too, but he's another young entrepreneur that is killing it, and it's awesome to see the growth of it. So, what would you be lighting on such a golf courses? I'm assuming the clubhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, so for this one, we're doing the clubhouse, and then we're actually doing, there's a driveway that leads up to the clubhouse. So we're trying to convince them to do the ground lighting, which will look amazing because it's a very windy road that goes up to the clubhouse. It'd be cool to do the ground lighting all the way through with the 4.5 inch stakes.
Again, Angelo put shopping center, churches, boutiques, restaurants, car dealership, golf courses, small businesses get 50% down for material. Here's another one too that some of your cities are good things to do. The municipalities are something that you can do, and you haven't even really reached out to that much, have you?
No, I've actually got a story for one of those. It really annoyed me as a competitive person. So I had one last year reach out. It was obviously year one, and I wasn't familiar with the whole bidding process, which is something we can maybe talk about and something I need to learn more about. If I'm being honest, I'm still trying to learn how these bids work. Obviously, everyone does them differently, but it's something that's frustrated me because I like to get the ball rolling and get the wheels in motion, but a lot of the time these things go on and on and on, and then they sit on the decision, and then they want another month. I've currently got bids in at a few places, and it's taken forever, and it's something that's been annoying me. So
Yeah, it doesn't just happen overnight. They want to sit there and drag feet and all of that good stuff too. Dan Maddox is on Monday nights all the time too. He said great name too. So Michael is he does a lot with the RGB side of things. He does the $100,000 RGB stuff, and so he put, is everything's static, or are you doing animated RGB?
no,
Everything.
no animate.
Yeah, he don't even know what RGB is, so it's all static. It's just regular C9s
I
basically.
know
That's
what
all.
RGB is, man.
I know. I just giving you a hard time. So, um, thanks, guys. This is great. I really think I got this. My goal is 50,000 my first year. I'm in Arizona. Is it okay to reach out to you sometimes for help? And the biggest thing is you. The biggest thing is if you want to talk to he. That's the reason why we're doing this live, is because he's had 8 or 9 people reach out, and he's like, I don't have time for that, right? When you're trying to grow your business, you ain't got time to be doing this stuff here, and I'm not saying that to be mean. That's the whole reason why I'm doing this live here for him, because it was easier for him to come on and do this for an hour versus talking to 8 people for an hour. Now that's 8 hours worth of time. But he is on. If you join ChristmasLights.io in the online training, he's there every Monday night giving you information, because everybody loves to give information and helping each other grow. So, would you agree with that, Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely, because there's a lot of people with knowledge in that group, and like I said earlier, and it's been really good. I've learned a lot in there, and it's just been good to learn off you as well, Jason, more than anyone. So
So Michael put when you're wanting to, Daniel, HMU anytime. So
where's Michael Simmons' base? Where's he?
he is, I believe he's in California. I think
Oh, nice.
he's out west somewhere. Um, a lot of people have been asking the questions: are you doing mock-ups for people, or are you just giving quotes? What app are you using, or that?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. So, you know what I did? This is, by the way, shows you how quickly I've learned, because when I first started the business, my wife will tell you, I was sitting with my first couple of quotes on Canva, right? Trying to draw perfect lines, and then the picture would move and the lines would be out and the lights would be all over it. And I'd be like, ah. And then, I ended up, by the grace of God, I was watching one of your videos, of course, right? And you were doing it was a video with Sarah from Holiday Home Concepts. So I ended up signing for her subscription, and that just changed everything. I mean, my conversion rate went overnight, just flipped. Like I started getting like good deals, closing good quotes, and it was all, a lot of it was down to that. It's really important. I think it's a shortcut, it's a lazy cut just to go and draw some lines with the yellow. I know that it's the same thing, but again, adding to why you're a premium service is it's the little details that make you different than everyone else. So taking the time, and it doesn't take much. Like when I first started on Holiday Home Concept, it took me a while, but now I can do it in a few minutes, and it's easy. You just drag the mouse, but it shows you almost similar to how it's going to look on the home. Obviously, it's never the same, but and I think the customers really appreciate that.
Yeah, so Sam, I know Sam said that was his number one games killer was the holiday home concept. And if you go in there, I think if you put Jason 10, you'll get 5% off, I believe it is. So you don't need to sign up right now. I would wait till we get closer, so that, unless you're putting it up, but that's definitely something there. Sam said it's an easy way to knock out 40 to 50 quotes a day, that way using it. Michael said he lives in Texas and he has an office in California too. So I knew there was a California something in there. So for sure. So one thing before we jump off here, I've actually done something here. And on my pressure washing one, I did this a while ago. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but if you want to know I go live every Wednesday night, and it's always on Christmas lights, or at least marketing for Christmas lights, one of the two. This one tonight, I did put it on my pressure washing channel too, because this, whatever we're doing in for commercial right now, you can do it in any service business. There's nothing special of picking up the phone and calling, and you're not putting a script out there. You're building relationships and doing it. But if you text LITE, LITE, to 855-619-5483, it should start you down a trail of some information. And then every Wednesday night when I go live, I will send a text out letting you know I am going live. Again, I'm not 100% sure this is going to work, but the best way to try it is just try it, and see if it's right, and then we can go from there. Texas, there's no money in lights there. Tristan put there. So it's an app. It's actually. Did you do it on the computer, Holiday Home? It's easiest on the computer of Holiday Home Concepts, if I remember.
Yeah, I did it on the computer, and what I would do is I'd take my laptop in the truck, and then just do it in there on the hotspot. But you can actually pull up the website. Sometimes, if I only had my phone, I would just use my phone. You can pull up the website and do it in the phone, but it's more tough because you've only got the finger and you're trying to, make sure it's
Right.
on the phone. I did that a lot, but I didn't want it really. It was annoying.
So it is something that, as you do it, it takes some time to learn the Holiday Home concept, but it definitely does make it work. It also, it will also measure pretty close to it. It's not, it's within close enough that if you add your 10%, you'll be good to go. So,
Can I talk about that? Because this has been annoying me for a while. And I
yeah.
don't know if it's just me, but ever since I joined the group, you know, I think people, maybe this is me, I feel like people overthink that. I don't know if it's just because I'm not too, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just kind of look at it, ballpark it, and it's usually right. But you'll see people going back and forth, thinking it's got to be a perfect quote. As long as it's relatively accurate, you're all right. Don't overthink it, because then it takes time, and then you're like, oh, what do I do? Just pull the trigger. Be more instinctive.
Yeah, that's what Sam, he actually put. It's the only way we measure the roof line now. So they're just going off of that. And like I say, you will be within probably 5 to 10 feet either which way. So you're going to be good enough that you're going to be good. And if you're charging the $10 to $12 a foot, Sam, I believe he's at the $8-9 a foot. Even if you're a few feet short, it's not going to kill you, right? Now, if you do it and you're at $6 a foot and you're 10 feet short, then you're down to $4 or $5 a foot, because that's why we charge what we charge of in that error of if we make something and it goes wrong on us. So, and that's definitely something that you got to do. I can pretty much eyeball most places. The problem with this is I could too. I could usually get within pretty close of it of that light. I could usually get pretty. I could pretty much get within 2 to 3 feet by, eyeballing it, going it. The problem with that is when you try to teach someone else and you
Yeah.
give someone else that job,
Yeah.
they're not going to be as easy. But when you do holiday home concepts, yeah, it's $100 a month. You need to use it for 2 or 3 months, but they can put it in there. They put the size of the door, and it'll do it. And I actually did a video, You can actually do it on Chat GPT now. I wrote a script that all I did is put the picture in there. I said the door is 3 by 7. How many feet? It was 2 feet off, and
No
it took
way, really?
it was 3 feet off. So it said it was 169 feet, and the guide said it took 173 feet. So it was three
That's
four
great.
feet off just by putting a picture in there through a pump, and it was 2 seconds, and it measured all the roof lines. So, and it was a pretty technical roof line too. It wasn't just a straight across roof line. It had an upper and a lower and a garage and all kinds of stuff.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Yep. Yep, you're right. It's either 10, 20, 30, or 40-foot roof lines. Never 13, 19, 23, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly why we use it. We get some trained in 30 minutes. Now it's time to start doing quotes. It's important for us when we have three using it. Yep, for sure. Because that's the thing. It's
Dude,
all about getting it done quickly. Go ahead.
it's amazing. Like just listening to Sam there, we think alike. That's funny. Like done the same things without even knowing we were doing the same things. Kind of done the same things, and it's obviously worked for us both. So it's interesting.
But that's why I kind of push a lot of things. I push the things that I know that are going to get
Yeah.
people success, right? I don't push the thing, can you do Jolly Lights? Sure. Is there people out there making $1 million on Jolly Lights? I'm sure there is, right? But this is one, I know the girl personally. They're a great couple. And she's there to help do Christmas lights. And I think there's things that helps you to separate yourself by doing it. Again, I don't have nothing against Jolly Lights. It is an iPad app, and that's the only thing it works on. But this works on everything else, so that's the other part of it. But again, I don't care what you do. It's kind of like back to, yard signs. I love yard signs. You know who else loves yard signs? Sam else loves yard signs. He was calling me last year. He's like, Jason, should I put out yard signs this week? I'm like, hell yeah, you better put out yard signs. He's like, I wasn't going to. All right, I'll put out 300 yard signs for Christmas lights, right?
Yeah.
That's the type of person that he is. I don't know how many yard signs he put out and for Christmas lights last year, but he put out a crap ton of yard signs. I would say probably 3,000 yard signs within a 3 month period of putting out yard signs. That's called being consistent, relentless, and prolific and getting stuff done, right?
Yeah.
GSD, getting stuff done. So,
Can I bring up a point as well about the premium service? I've got to mention this. Something that has really helped is you know, when you're saying you're a premium service and you're charging premium prices, I think it's very important. Like I said earlier, you have to be different than everyone else. And I think something you should do is when I sent out the message, for the returning customers, that was my biggest success. Not the money I made, but the fact that I'm able to get close to 90% return rate of those customers from year one. That's, in my opinion, more important than the money itself, is they actually valued, the experience and enjoyed, the Christmas lights. But also being humble enough to ask each customer and pick up the phone. And my plan is when I'm finalizing these contracts for year two, because I didn't sign them on year-to-year contracts, 3-year contracts, sorry. I just wanted my work to do the talking. But when I call them back up and take their deposit, because I've not took deposit yet, I'll take the deposit. I'm going to make sure I ask them, hey, is there, I know you really love the lights, but is there anything I could improve on? Because I always think, that a premium service, you should always be looking for feedback and looking to improve on the year before. Um, and I think that's what's going to make everything I do sustainable. And in the long run, is I'm not one of these $5, $6 a foot guys that doesn't even show back up to take the lights down. I'm going to take the time to ask you how, where could we go better in the future? What could we do to improve your experience? How was everything? Um,
so did you give any discount at all on this here, or was it full price back
yeah,
the second time?
so what I did to get the returning customers is at the end of the year, before we took down the lights, what we did was I sent a message to everyone saying, hey, we're going to be here in this window to take down the lights. If you are planning on returning for year two, please let us know so that we can store your lights. If you won't be returning for year two, please let us know so that we can repurpose the lights. And then what happened was, like, it was 85 and now it's up to 90% return rate. But what I said was, look, for year two, there's a 10% discount. I took your advice. And then for year three, there's a 5%. So they'll get a total over 3 years of a 15% discount.
Gotcha. So you'll still make plenty of money at $10 a foot. You're only giving off a dollar. You're still making $9 a foot this year. So
Yeah, and I think the last thing I want to say about the whole experience of being premium service is there were some things during the year that we ran into, and I sent this to you, Jason. Like, we had issues taking down the lights with snow in Virginia. There was a lot of snow. And again, going back to trying to be different to everyone else and providing a premium service, instead of sending a message out to everyone saying, oh, yeah, we're going to be late, light, snow's here and stuff, what I did was I actually sent out a video message. So I ended up talking on a video and sending it out to all the customers saying, I hope you had a great Christmas, blah, 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 to build more of that relationship so that over the years they trust me and they like me and they'll come back. And I think just try to do those little things. I could have simply just sent out a text and it'd been a lot less hassle, but taking that extra step. And then we also did gift bags for each customer. And I think that's what's contributed to my return rate is, we did gift bags. So my wife helped me put gift bags together with Scottish treats where I'm from, like little shortbread and tea bags. And then we put those in at the doors, before Christmas. And again, it all ties into providing a great experience.
and that's something I don't know what all Sam does, but see, Sam is his wife is from Dominican Republic, I think, or no, it's not Dominican. It's down south, and they actually own a cigar shop. And they get the cigars imported from there, and they do a lot of donate. They give a lot of that stuff away too. He likes to drink bourbon too, so that would be perfect with your Scottish stuff. So that would definitely go over well with him. We never ask to leave a sign; we just do it. Why give the opportunity to say no? Is what Sam just put, and I was wrong on the 3,000 signs. He actually put on here that they put out over 4,000 signs. So you want to talk about being relentless. That's a good way to be relentless. 1,200 a month, 400 a week, 250 to 300 on Saturday, and then one at each job. So this is the reason why. And here's the thing with Sam, he probably spent $50,000 to $70,000 in marketing, or maybe even more than that. And the reason why he did yard sign is because that was the number one. That was his number one lead generator, was still yard signs. And so I know a lot of times people are going to say you can't. Them are the low-paying people, and it's not. He's getting $8 a foot in Indianapolis. Again, I know some of his competitors are getting less than that, and they've been in business for 10, 12 years, and they're doing jobs. One of the big jobs I never forget to see was he did this big job, and it was like $800, and it only took an hour, and I'm like, that's a $2,000 job that you just put up for $800. And so Sam's actually said he's $10 a foot. So that is why I want to make sure that you guys are successful, and that's the thing that I love seeing, Sam. I love seeing people in here that are being successful. But before we jump off here, I want to ask this question because a lot of people think it's easy. Is this easy to be able to do this?
No, definitely not. No, it's it's not easy at all. I mean, that was a very, very stressful few months. There was a lot of frustrations which we spoke about, um, but that's why it comes back to you've really got to enjoy it. Like you have to if you're going to dedicate this much time to something, there has to be a passion for it. Otherwise, you're not going to last. And I'm in this for the long run. I plan on hand my goal and what keeps me going every day is, and I'm a visual. Since I was an athlete, I always visualize things, and I believe in visualization and the law of attraction. And we can talk more about all this stuff and high frequency and being a positive person. And I believe that if you visualize what you this will sound weird to some people, but what I visualize one day, and I've done this before I go to bed, is handing over the business to my sons one day and being able to lay on my deathbed knowing that my sons will be in a good place. And that's what those days where no one's picking up the phone and everyone's saying no to me, I don't stop because it's for my boys. and that just I'll run through a brick wall for them, and that's why I'm doing everything I do. So, and when times are tough, that's what I remember.
Yeah, and so that's the book Think and Grow Rich, right? You visualize it, you see it, you go after it, you don't stop until you get it. And you know that's important of your why, and it's kind of back to you were saying it's not about the money. A lot of times it's about the what you're wanting, and so that is definitely things of what you want to do. So with that, we're actually over time here. We do have a training coming up. It's going to be an advanced training. And so some of the people in the room have done over $1 million in their business, in Christmas light business, a couple $1 million in Christmas light business. And so if you go to christmaslights.io/A, just A, that should take you to the advanced class. It's really for the people that done I mean, it's kind of geared for the people that done 100,000. It's not really designed for the brand new person. We've got some great speakers. Paul Gardner is going to be there. Ryan Lee is going to be there. Chris Johnson does a lot about sales. We got a lot of great speakers. Dustin Howes is going to be there. He is amazing with systems. He's probably one of the best entrepreneurs that I know. He owns 3-4 businesses. He does a lot of money in business. He probably does over $10 million in business, and well, in each, or not in each one, but in a bunch of his businesses, it's worth way more than that. And so that is who's going to be speaking there. So the networking side of things is definitely going to be good. There is only going to be 30 spots because we're having it at his shop and we can only get 30 people into it. So there is only going to be 30 spots. If you sign up before June 1st, you save $500. So go sign up before June 1st so you can save $500. It is in Utah, and it is beautiful out there.
Damn, man, I was just a way to say I'm gonna go, but Utah's far.
It's just a little airplane ride out there. It's actually at Lights and Wholesale's shop out there in Salt Lake City, and it is going to be amazing. I promise you, the people in there. There will be permanent lighting training on the third day. That's the last day. The last permanent lighting training I went to, I probably met the person that does the most in Christmas lights in the country, by me being there. So it's definitely something that, again, if you go to christmaslights.io/A or advanced training, I believe it is, but if you just put I think I did a hyperlink to it, and it will definitely be worth your time to go and get signed up before it sells out, because once it's sold out, like I say, we can't be adding more people because we're actually,
Yeah.
it's going to be kind of a tight spot. I
It
will
sounds
put,
awesome. I'm going to lose sleep over. I'm losing sleep over systems already. I'm going to have to
yes,
run 3 crews, and I need to figure out. You know, one was stressful enough, but if I'm going to get to $600,000, I have to run 3 crews. So I'm going to have to
yeah.
figure out how that will work.
Yes, he is definitely one of the best guys at systems, and so I will actually put the link down in here, and put this out there so that way you all can see it there, for it. Will there be any long-term mentorship opportunities, from this workshop? Possibly there may be some that we are actually talking about doing some, so that may be something that you can do also. But again, if you want to check it out, I definitely say go sign up so that way you can get your spot. Again, you save $500 if you sign up before June 1st. We're going to have some amazing speakers that you won't get anywhere else. So, and most of the speakers we're allowing for 2 hours. A lot of times when you go, we've know just by doing some of them, if you're only there for an hour, you really don't get what you need to get out for a lot of them. So most of these speakers are going to be at least 2 hours long. I brought on the people that I knew that could do 2 hours and definitely give you value, because I want to give you all value, right? I want you all to grow. I want you all to hit $500,000 or $1 million. That's what I want you to do. So with that, what are some words of wisdom if you were just starting today of starting a Christmas light business?
Oh, from me?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be a sponge, to absorb as much information as possible, to reach out to Jason, to ask him questions, to pester him like I have for the last since August. Um, to go on the Facebook page and go to the top, the little search bar, and research, ask people questions. Um, I went through that whole almost the whole page for like a year and read everything in there. Went all the way back for like a year's worth of stuff and just kept reading and reading. And then if there was something I didn't understand, I would punch the keyword in and it would all come down. And these are people that have been there and done it and know a lot more than I do. And so I found that very valuable, very valuable.
Awesome. So if you're not in the Christmas Light group, you can go to christmaslights.io/group, and that'll put you into the Facebook group. It's a completely free group. I don't let no spam in it. If you try to spam it at all, if you're a vendor or try to vendor something, I don't put up with it. I block it out pretty quickly. So it is what it is, and that's if you don't give value, you're not going to give try to buy my crap here. So
And then one other thing I forgot to mention is when you're starting your business, one of the first things you want to do is, and we spoke about this earlier, is what makes you different. Write that down, or what do you want it to be that makes you different, and why, and how, and those are the things that will make you successful. Is how are you going to gain separation from your opponents or you know
yep.
your rivals.
And I'm going to put this out here. This phone number is brand new. It's not brand new. I've actually had it for a while. I've never put it out here. This is going to be for my christmaslights.io stuff. If you try to call it, I've actually set up an IVR, and you'll be able to leave a message. And if you are lucky, I may answer your phone call. But if you're not lucky, you're probably going to get the voicemail. Just so you know. I've never done this before. But I want to make sure you guys grow. That's my goal. That's my number one goal, is to make sure that you all are growing and being successful. Because I know if you're successful, it's going to change your life. It literally will change your life. Because then you'll be able to have time freedom, financial freedom. You'll be able to buy things that you would never been able to do. If you're not making 100 grand, 200 grand, it's really hard to make it in today's world. A $10, $12 hamburger from McDonald's is not that easy to swallow at the end of the day. So definitely get it done. It will be that training will be June 20th through the 22nd is when that advanced training is. So, and I will have all the rest of my in-person trainings coming up on that site probably by the end of this week. I've actually set down. We're going to have some really cool places. Dan Maddox, as long as Lindy and them, they get a shop down there, I'll probably have one down by Charlotte. Pink Pro Wash, I'm going to have one up in Michigan, so you'll get to meet another great entrepreneur, Jeremy and Jennifer. They're amazing. So we're going to have.
I love their website. Their website's awesome.
Yep. So that's where one of them. That one will be the September class. Will be in Michigan. I will have some here in Cincinnati. I'll probably have some in Indianapolis and some in Utah. So I'm definitely having lots of classes, so that way you guys can keep growing. But other than that, I hope you all have an amazing week, and I'll talk at you all later.